Good afternoon, all you grade 10 young geographers out there, and a very, very warm word of welcome to this, our second broadcast of our telematics. Now, this afternoon, we are going to have a look at geomorphology, and it's very, very important because here in geomorphology, to me, in geomorphology is one of the most interesting parts of our syllabus, and we will discuss a few of the most important things with regard to geomorphology that I will share with you later on. But firstly, please remember, grade 10s, that in our first broadcast, I showed you how our booklet works. I showed you that we had incompleted mind maps in there, mind maps and notes in some cases. And as I am busy presenting to you, I would like you just to fill in the keywords. Most of the keywords will appear on the screen in this presentations this afternoon. And of course, some of those things I've left out on purpose. I would like you to also go and do some work and look up certain answers for yourselves. So, okay, so we said that we are dealing with geomorphology today, and I've actually chosen three basic things that we are going to have a look at. The first one, and most of the afternoon we will be spending on this one, will be continental drift and plate tectonics. Plate tectonics, usually many students, learners don't understand how it works, and we hope that at the end of today that you will have an idea of what plate tectonics is all about. And also, of course, the continental drift. I've also have a few questions as we proceed, and I hope that some of you will at least log in or use the WhatsApp line to answer some of our questions. Okay, so we will have a look at continental drift, as I said, which will take up most of our time, and plate tectonics, and then we will also have a look shortly at folding and faulting as well, how these processes work. Okay, so without further ado, grade 10s, I would like to kick off with continental drift and plate tectonics. Now, continental drift and plate tectonics, to me, this was always my favorite lesson to teach, and I know that you as students also find this lesson very, very interesting. So we are just going to, perhaps with a new, different approach, show you what this is all about. Okay, so continental drift and plate tectonics. The first thing that I would like to share with you is the father of plate tectonics. This was a guy called Alfred Wegener. He was known as the father of plate tectonics, and he was the first person who actually saw. Now this comic strip appears in your notes. He was the first person who saw that Africa and South America and some other continents actually fit into each other like a jigsaw puzzle. Now, if we have a look at these continents that I've got here before me, then this is actually what Wegener noticed. The only problem, he was a climatologist and not a geomorphologist. And when he came up with this theory, you can imagine what the rest of the geomorphology world was buzzing, and what they thought about these things that he, actually the theories that he set onto the scene with regard to geomorphology. It was not his study field. And they asked questions with regard to this. And he said, listen here, guys, you have a look at South America, have a look at Africa. And what happened is that these two continents once were joined, and they then slowly moved apart, and eventually they moved apart and until they reached the position as they where they are today. When you have a look at your world map, then you'll see that more or less, okay, it would be a bit more North Africa, but that is what it more or less would look like. Now, of course, they said, listen here, you haven't got evidence. How do you know? Now, you must imagine this is around about 1910 when he came up with this, and people really didn't believe what was going on. So let's have a look at what he actually said. He called this process continental drift. And as I've mentioned, he said that the whole Earth was actually 200 million years ago. It looked like something like over there. That 200 million years ago, that we had Pangea, Pan, which means all Earth, or one Earth. So all the continents were actually part of one Earth here 200 million years ago. And what happened then is that it broke up into two different continents called Laurasia and Gondwana. There you can see them, Laurasia, you can just see Asia, you can see the word Asia there. And what happened is they broke up into those two continents in the north and to the south. That was 200 million years ago. Then about 135 million years ago, now you can see that now actually, he said that the world has taken shape, as moving really in the direction as where we are today. And at present day, this is about what our Earth really looks like. Now, in a nutshell, great things, that is what continental drift is all about. This is what Alfred Wegener put on the table, and as I've mentioned in the introduction, you can imagine how his ideas were criticized. And remember that time, people didn't really think out of the box and accepted only what they could see. So what happened then? Now, if you have a look at this map, this is an interesting map that I just brought that I would like to show to you. If you have a look at this map, you will see. If you see, have a look at the map there, you will see it is the political map of Pangaea, meaning that the countries all belonged to one continent. Now, you will see where Africa is. Thank you. You will see where the United States of America. You can see Europe. You can see Australia. You can see all the countries as if it was in the Pangaea about 200 million years ago. Very interesting map. So actually, all of us belong to that one world about 200 million years ago. Now, what is continental drift? And this is very, very important for you. What is continental drift? Continental drift is the movement of continents over time. Please, Grayten, see that you exactly know what continental drift is all about. So if you have a look at these 4 diagrams of Earth as the continents have moved and spread out, this whole process is called continental drift. Very, very important that you must know what is continental drift. Later on, we're going to get to plate tectonics, and you must also be able to say what is plate tectonics. Now, continental drift again, that's the movement of continents over time. Now, of course, then the following question is, but how is it possible? How is it possible that these continents could move as Wegener has suggested? Now, if you have a look at this Earth, this was the first diagram that you learned about in your geomorphology. And you learned that we had our crust, right? The mantle, the outer core, and the intercore. That is what you have learned. And what's important is that this part, the mantle, the layer just below the Earth's surface, have a look at the crust that we live on. It's solid, right? There we are, solid crust. But just below us, we have the mantle, which consists of molten rock. Molten rock that has been melted. Now, if you've got water, and you've got this water in a basin, and you take a piece of wood and you put it on there and you just touch it like that, and the piece of wood will drift in the water. Why? Because we have got a liquid at the bottom. And this is exactly what's happening. If the Earth didn't have this structure, then continental drift, I think, would have been quite impossible. Okay, so this is what you must understand. You must see the relationship between the structure of the Earth as well as continental drift. Okay, now, what's important also is this, that you have the continents on top. We've got the continents, which is solid. Yeah, in this diagram that we're showing you here, there's the continents, and the molten or the melted magma of the mantle or the melted rock here at the bottom. And now these continents, because it's solid, it actually can drift in your mantle. Very, very important that you must understand that concept in order to understand continental drift. Okay, so because the Earth is still very hot, the plates in the crust can move around more molten magma. And this is when we get to what is called plate tectonics. Now, I know, grade 10, that plate tectonics can become a very, very difficult concept. But if you stay with me, then you will be able to, I'm sure, that you will be able to at least understand that how these movements actually take place within and on top of the Earth's crust. Now, okay. Now, what happens is that you must know that the continents are actually drifting on plates. Now, have a look at this. Here we've got the plates of the Earth. Here we've got, for instance, the African plate. Here we've got the Eurasian plate. Here we've got the South African. Now, these are the plates. These lines here, these are the plate boundaries. And these are the plates that are constantly moving. Here we've got the South American plate constantly moving, right? The North American. You'll see that most of these, at least all your continents are on these plates, or cracks actually. Plates is nothing more than cracks here in the crust of the Earth. And these cracks are responsible for the movement of the continents. So, now immediately the question comes up, but what is plate tectonics? Remember, we had a look at the first concept, continental drift, and we asked you, what is continental drift? And we saw that continental drift, what is continental drift? It is the movement of continents over time and into different positions. Now, what is plate tectonics? Let's have a look at the definition of plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is the theory that explains the movement of continents. So when you are trying to explain why these continents move, that explanation, that theory is known as plate tectonics. Now, just to recap, remember when I showed you the previous map, you saw we had the continents, and around the continents were these cracks or plates on the Earth's crust. These plates are called plate boundaries, the edges of them. And these plates are busy moving in different directions. Now, the following question is, how do these plates move? And this is a very, very important question, because if you understand the three different movements of the plates, it will be very, very easy for you to figure out what type of plates and where we find the different type of plates and what type of plates that we have. Okay, let's have a look at these different plates. How do plates move? The first one is plates can move away from each other. Now look at that movement there. And it's very, very important that you must know that if you can have at the plate boundary that you've got plates and they can move away from each other, right? And that is called a divergent plate boundary. Okay, let's have a look at the second way in which plates can move. Now, if plates can move away from each other, then it means they can also move towards each other. And that is called a convergent plate boundary. Now, these movements, of course, right in the, let me just remind you that right up to grade 12, you will be confronted with these divergence and convergence. Okay, divergence, moving away, convergence, moving towards each other. So just get those, make sure that you know what these concepts mean. Okay, so the convergence, meaning we've got two plates moving towards each other. Okay, so we had firstly the divergent one, plates moving away from each other, right? Now, what's happening? If plates move away from each other, what's going to happen? Then it means you're going to have more earth crust that's going to be created between the two, am I right? Now, see what happens. When plates move towards each other, convergence, one of two things can happen. We'll come to that later on. One of two things can happen. As these plates move towards each other and they collide, then this can happen, right? The plates can move upwards. The Himalayan mountains have been formed in that way. And the other thing that can happen is as these plates move towards each other, the one can slide beneath the other one, which is called the subduction zone. And that one, people, if you get to these type of zones, the subduction zones, those are the difficult ones. Those are the ones that are really scary, because there's the one where you get the ones where you get the worst earthquakes. There's the ones where you plate boundaries, or where you get the worst volcanoes, and those are the most active ones that we get on the Earth, surface of Earth. We'll show you where we find them later on. Okay, so the last one that we can have is that plates can pass each other sideways, right? So if you've got your two plate boundaries here, then they can also move past each other, right? The St. Andrews is plate boundary. That one moves in that one. So just to recap again, let's see what these plates can do. You must understand, you must know the different movements of your plate boundaries. This is very, very, very important. Please remember that. The first one that you must remember is that plates can move away from each other, the divergent ones. They can move towards each other, the convergent ones. And of course, they can move past each other sideways. These are the three types of plate movements that we can get. Now, okay, now let's have a look. What are the examples of those type of plate movements? Now, here we've got the same map that I've shown you. Now, I'm going to show you one example of each of these plate boundaries that we've discussed of this movement. The first one is that one, the collusion boundary. Now, what happens with a collusion boundary is, of course, if you can remember, that would be a convergent boundary. Now, I've mentioned to you the Himalayas already. So, you know how the Himalayas were formed? We had actually India, that was part of Africa, that drifted away, and actually it met the Asia there. And what happened as it met Asia, they started to push and push and push, and eventually the mountain, the Himalayas, has been formed. They have been formed, going higher and higher and higher. And you know, when the first people who reached the summit there, Tenzing and Hillary, when they reached the summit, if you climb it today, you will climb about a few centimeters higher than the those two have climbed it a few years, many years ago. So it's still, remember, these boundaries are still active. We're living on a living world, a very active world. And remember, mountains change. They change in height. They get higher, they get lower. And this is a very exciting one, how the Himalayas have been fought, the collusion boundary. So that's an example of a collusion boundary. The following one is the destructive of your subduction boundary. Now, if you have a look at that one there by Japan, in the region of Japan, and you also get it in New Zealand, you've got your destructive or your subduction boundary there. Now, what happens there, as I've said, of course, what must I remember? Sub goes with submarine, means the one goes below the sea. So what's happening? Here we've got the two moving towards each other, right? Convergence. Now, the first one, that happened. So what's happening now? The one goes below the other one. And as it goes below, you get this really lots of energy that is being released as it goes. And the worst type of earthquake is formed there. Now, that plate boundary, that was when we had an earthquake there years ago, right, in Phuket. It, of course, started off and triggered a tsunami, and about 250,000 people were killed. So you can imagine how destructive, and it's also called the destructive or subduction plate boundary that we've got that. In Christchurch, right, very, very, very important. Also, they're very close to a subduction boundary, right, in Christchurch. That's where the rugby team, the Crusaders, come from. And what's happened there is that they regularly have these earthquakes very high on the Richter scale because of the subduction zone. Okay, so that's that one. Let's have a look at the third one. The third one that we've got is the constructive or the divergent boundary. Now, I would like you just to follow this one. Here's the mid-Atlantic ridge going down here. And what's happened, I remember I've showed you here in my introduction how South America and Africa, how they are drifting apart. Now, just see what's happening here. As they drift apart, then it means that the sea is becoming wider. Just have a look at this. If you have this boundary here, and Africa is moving in that direction, and South America is moving in this direction, then it means that the Atlantic Ocean here is becoming wider and wider. And if you cross the Atlantic Ocean a few million years ago, and you should cross it now, I mean, now it will be a considerable amount of kilometers extra that you will have to sail to actually cross the Atlantic Ocean. So see how in reality the effect that these plate boundaries have on our Earth. Okay, the last one that we've got conservative or the transform boundary. Now have a look at that conservative and the transform boundary. And what I would like to do, let me first tell you, remember that the idea is that these boundaries move sideways, okay? That is the movement of your plate boundary. Now, have a look at all four. By the way, this is the one where in California, where you also get lots of earthquakes, San Francisco and so forth. Now, have a look at all four these diagrams. The most important thing that you must notice here, grade 10s, have a look at the blue arrows that we've got here. And these blue arrows, grade 10s, these are the most important things that you must have a look at. Now, when they ask you in the exams, when your teacher gives you a diagram of a plate boundary, the first thing that you look at is the arrows. In other words, the direction of movement. That is going to determine the type of plate boundary that you must identify in the exams. Okay, so if you have a look at this, just have a look, everything that I've discussed with you. Look at that. We've ended off with the transform or the conservative boundary. There you can see the plates are moving sideways. Okay, look at the arrows. Okay, now look at the collusion boundary here. Look at the blue arrow there and on that side. In other words, they are moving towards each other. Look at your subduction one here also towards each other. But have a look at this. What's the difference? Now, please, grade 10s, don't get confused with your collusion boundary and your subduction one. Have a look at this one. Immediately you will see what's happening here. This plate is moving and downwards. Right? It's moving downwards. So this is what you've got here. You've got your destructive or your subduction boundary. And the last one, of course, will be a constructive one or a divergent. Remember, they're moving away from each other. And this is what's happening here in the Atlantic Ocean as we speak at the moment. Now, I'm going to give you an interesting assignment, okay? And I would like you to see what you can do with regard to this. I want you to go and purchase a small packet of Oreos. You get 4 of these small cookies in a packet, and I would like you to attempt to build these plate boundaries with the Oreos. All you need to do is just remove one of the black ones on top, right? Break it in half, right? And what have you got now? Now you've got the layers of the earth, black at the bottom, white and black again. So the top one, you can move firstly away from each other, then you'll see lots of white. In other words, more of the earth will be formed. If you look at the one that moves towards each other, the collusion like that, and upwards. Now, I don't want to give you any more because I would like you to go and do that on your own. And this is what you actually should look like. Now, if you ever look at the first one, immediately you would see they are moving away from each other, right? Am I right? They're moving away from each other. In other words, that would be your divergent or your constructive plate boundary. Have a look at that one, okay? And look at this one. What one would that be? Important thing that you must notice is that this one is going below or underneath that one. So this one is a subduction zone that we've got here, or destructive, or is subductive plate boundary. Now the other two are actually the easy ones, and I would like you to go and try and build this, because I promise you, after you've built this, then your different plate boundaries will perhaps just make a little bit more sense when you study your different plate boundaries. Okay, now, grade 10s, we've had a look at all these things. Firstly, we had a look at continental drift, and what we've done there, you saw, okay, Wegener has argued these arguments that our planet Earth was first one huge land mass, and then it started drifting apart. Now, that is called continental drift, right? So it's the movement of your continents over time. Very important that you must know that. Okay, then we had a look at plate tectonics, and we tried to explain how is it possible that the Earth is busy moving. Okay, how are they moving on the plates? What are the plates? What are the plate boundaries? How do they move? What are the different directions in which each of these plate boundaries move? And that's very, very important, that you must know the different directions in which the plate boundaries move Please, grade 10s, those are the questions that will pop up in the exams. And of course, you must know that on these boundaries, you are going to get your earthquakes and you're going to get volcanoes. Now, we are not going to have a look at earthquakes and volcanoes this afternoon. The reason, therefore, I know you never have any problems with earthquakes and volcanoes. It's exciting. It's nice work. So you must understand that this is on the, when you look for earthquakes, look for volcanoes, go look where, what type of plate boundaries have I got. And you'll see that then it will become very, very easy to explain it. Now, when we looked at this, you say, okay, you've been explaining a lot to us for this afternoon, but is there evidence? Why did Wegener say all these things? And now we are going to have a look at the different, why did we get these, I mean, has Wegener got some evidence for us? Now, let's have a look again at our diagram of what Wegener explained here. Now, what I'm doing now, I'm building up my Earth. Here I've got our two continents, and we've got Africa and South America. Now, I just want to show you something. And say, for instance, I've put a few stones here, and I've put a few flower pebbles on that side. So what's going to happen? The basic of the evidence is the following. If these continents were joined, and as Wegener has said, these continents have moved, I want you to see what's happening here. Firstly, you must see that your mountain ranges here and on the other side, this means that the rocks should be about the same. Am I right? If you look at this plant and the wildlife, animals, there was a time 200 million years ago where animals would walk from South America to Africa. Okay, so this means if you have a look and this has taken place, then it means as this has moved slowly apart, then certain things on the one side of Africa and the other side of South America, on the western side here of Africa, on the eastern side of South America, then it means that most of my evidences I will definitely find here. Okay, so let's have a look at what has Wegener said. What evidences are there? Okay, let's have a look at this. What evidences support the movement of continents over time? Now, let me tell you, if you look at what I've written there in brackets, and this is very important. This is an important paragraph type questions. Have a look at that. This is an important paragraph type questions. And grade 10s, if you ever look at your notes, I've got to discuss 4 with you, but I think I've made provision for 5 or 6 of these evidences. And as I said, I'm not going to do all the work. We want you also to go and do some research. I'm going to do 4 with you, see if you can add 2 or even 3 more evidences to what we're discussing this day. Okay, let's have a look at this. What evidence supports the movements of continents over time? So have a look at this. The first one, the east coast of South America and the west coast of Africa match almost perfectly, especially below sea level. And yeah, I'm back with this that we started off, right? These 2 continents, when you go down a few thousand, 2,000 meters, then you will see that these 2, I mean, all of us have built jigsaw puzzles when we were young. I'm still, you are still building jigsaw puzzles. In fact, I've still built a big jigsaw puzzle of the map of the world a few months ago. So you know what jigsaw puzzles are all about. So this means if you have a look at this, it actually nearly fits perfectly into each other. So they make a perfect match. Let's see, any other evidence that we've got here? The second one is fossil remains of the Lytrosaurus have been found in Africa, India, and Antarctica. But the thing is this, that dinosaur could not swim. Now, have a look at the map that we've accompanied this evidence here. Now, here we've got these dinosaurs that are found here in South America, Africa. It's even found in Antarctica. It's even found in India, in Australia. Now, the only way in which this can be possible is that this area here should have been joined a few million years ago. And therefore, you should find all these remains you should find in these continents today. Very, very important that you must know that. Right, the next one. Next evidence. Some mountains enclose to the coast rocks of the same type and are about the same age. Now, have a look at this. We've got mountains here, and then we've got the same type of mountains here, right? And as these continents have moved away from each other, you have seen, but we don't even only see the mountains there, but the problem is they are the same age. In other words, this whole area somewhere in very far past millions of, they had to have been linked together. Okay, so that's one. The last evidence that we've got is that we had an ice sheet, a huge ice sheet that covered this whole area. Yeah, and that we have got glacier deposits, moving ice, right? Moving ice. That you've done this in geomorphology in grade 9. These same glaciers that we find in Africa, Brazil, Australia, they match and they are of the same material. So what does that mean? This means that in this dotted line that I've drawn here, why do we only find it here? The only reason that we can give there is that this whole area has been one piece of earth. So if we have a look, just to summarize all our evidences, these are 4, as I said. There are 2 or 3 more that you will have to add. Firstly, the continents fit perfectly. Now, I've only used Africa and South America as an example. I would like you to have a look at North America, right? See where that fits in. Go have a look at Australia. See if you turn it, where does that fit in? Where does India fit in? Have a look at that, right? I've only used this as an example to make it as simple as possible for you. Okay, so go see where they fit in perfectly. Secondly, the glacier deposits that match. Thirdly, the rock formations that match. And fourthly, the fossils, the remains that match. Now, grade 10s, have a look at those 4 facts there. There is a very important paragraph type question for you for the end of the year. And I won't be surprised, actually you mustn't be surprised, if your teachers ask you a similar question when you write your final geography question paper, where they ask you what evidence supports this whole process that we have looked at. Very important question. I think that you will remember it, so most of these things that we've got. But please, there are 2 or 3 more. You go have a look at this. Okay, so this one. Now, let's review. Let's have a look at what we've done. Let's go back a little. The first question that I would like to ask, continental drift refers to the theory that explains the movement of the plates and the processes that occur along plate boundaries. Now, is that true or is that false? Now, have a look at that again. Continental drift refers to the theory that explains the movement of the plates and the processes that occur along the plate boundaries. Now, of course, that's false. Am I right? Of course, that's false. Because continental drift refers to the movement of continents over time. Okay? The theory, what is that? Plate tectonics. In other words, when you have a look at this again, have a look at the definition again, that definition definitely refers to plate tectonics and not continental drift. Okay, let's have a look at our second review question here. What are the tectonic plates like? What do they look like? Do they look like chocolate? Do they look like oranges? Do they look like a jigsaw puzzle? Or do they look like a computer keyboard? Also a very important short question that you can expect in exam. And of course, if you have a look at this and remember what we said, of course, the tectonic plates really look like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, now, grade 10s, these questions that I'm just reviewing with you, these are important questions that I'm sure might pop up in your final exams. Okay, so take note about this and see if you can go study this stuff. And I'm sure that these things will make much more sense for you. Okay, our next question. A destructive or subduction plate boundary is represented by A, B, C, or D. Now again, can you remember what I told you? I showed you these ones, I showed you on a map, if you can remember, on a world map, okay? And what did I tell you? As soon as such a question appears in the exams, what must you look at? The arrows, okay? The arrows will give you an indication of what your plate boundary should look like. Okay, so let's have a look at the question again. A subduction or a destructive or subduction plate boundary is represented by, now, what did I say? Submarine. This means the one goes below the other one. So the only one that actually can fit here would be D. That would be your subduction plate boundary. Now, grade 10s, if you have a look at that, remember you can also be asked to draw a simple diagram of any one of these plates. Okay, draw a simple diagram, right? And it's only 2 or 3 lines. Your subduction zone, one line like that, one like the other one, and you show your arrows. If I can just show you quickly, if they ask you to, for instance, to draw a subduction zone, all you need is the following. That will happen because it's below, and you've got your other one there, and this is what your arrow will look like. Am I right? And that would be your subduction zone. You see, only 2-3 lines, and you'll be able to draw any one of these plate boundaries. Okay, so that's very important. Your arrows, you must understand. Okay, yeah, this is a higher order question. Let's have a look at this question. Now, this is a multiple choice question. Here we've got the following. Here I'm giving you a statement. Continents that fit together is an evidence of continental drift. Example, the west coast of Africa, of South America, and the east coast of Africa match perfectly. Now, let us look at this. As I've said, this is a higher order multiple choice question. Let's have a look at the options. You must choose from the following. A, the statement as well as the example is correct. B, the statement as well as the example is incorrect. C, the statement is correct, but the example is incorrect. D, the statement is incorrect, but the example is correct. Now, what is the answer? As I've said, it is a higher order question. Let's have a look at the answer. The statement is correct, but the example is incorrect. Now, why? Let's have a look at all these options, because now I want to show you how to think in a geographic way to get to the answer. Here's the first one. The statement as well as the example is correct. Let's have a look at that. The continents that fit together in evidence is of continental drift, the west coast of South America and the east coast of Africa match perfectly. Now, why is that wrong? Have a look at the example. The example says the west coast of Africa, of South America, and the east coast of Africa match perfectly. Okay, let's come back to our diagram that I've got here. Here we've got this, right? And have a look at the question that we've got there. The example says the west coast of South America and the east coast of Africa match perfectly. Okay, let's have a look at that. This side where I'm drawing with my finger now, right? That is the east coast of Africa. That's the west coast of South America, and they're saying they match perfectly. Of course, you can see it's not a match, okay? So to make that statement true, what should it have been? It should have been the east coast of Africa and the west coast of South America. They match perfectly. Be awake, okay? Read your questions. Can you see a simple thing like north, east, south, and west? Simple thing like that. And the chances are that you would have gotten this completely wrong because you confused your different directions. You see great things, right? Geography is a subject where you must think all the time. Okay, right. So that was our review. But let us just have a look at the one that's correct. The statement is correct, but the example is incorrect. That's correct. Continents, the statement says continents that fit together is an evidence of continental drift. So the statement is correct. And the example, as I've shown you now with the maps of Africa and South America, is completely incorrect because the two coasts have been turned around. Wakey, wakey, when you are busy reading your questions. Okay, so let's have a look at and this is for me is the most interesting part of continental drift. This has to do with the future. The future. What does the future hold in for us? Right. Now, grade 10s, let me tell you this. Continental drift is an ongoing process. It's happening as you are sitting and watching this broadcast. It's busy happening, millimeters at a time. So this means when we come back, if we could come back to this earth within the next 200 million years, this, as you see on your screen now, that's definitely not what our Mother Earth is going to look like. So now I want you to bear in mind the different plate boundaries, and let's see what changes here on our Earth can we expect within the next few 100 million years. Let's have a look at them. The first thing that we've got there, the Atlantic Ocean will become wider because Africa and South America are still drifting apart millimeter by millimeter. So the Atlantic Ocean will become wider. Very important. That's actually an easy one. The next one. Because the Atlantic Ocean is becoming wider, of course, the other ocean, the Pacific Ocean on the other side, will become smaller. Okay, so that's easy. The next one. This is an interesting one. Have a look at this. The Mediterranean Sea will disappear. Africa is drifting northwest, and Europe is drifting in the southern direction. This means that the Mediterranean Sea will completely be squeezed out over a period of time. California will collide with Alaska. Why? I want you to think. Why will California collide with Alaska? Can you remember what type of boundary have we got there? What's the movement there? Like that, right? So what's happening now is that California is moving towards Alaska, right? And it's going to collide later on with Alaska. Okay, let's have a look at the next. Los Angeles will join up with San Francisco, also because of that movement. And the Himalayas will become higher, as I've explained to you. And the Horn of Africa, the Horn, only that part of Africa, that's the Horn, will be drifting away. Now, what's going to actually happen is the following. That eventually, as these continents drift away, and this is the scary part, they will move and eventually join up together and form one Earth again. Have you thought about that? That within the next few 200, 250 million years, we will be back at Pangaea. But because of all these movements, the continents will collide and form one Earth again. And then, this is just a theory, they will start drifting apart again. So continental drift is an ongoing process. I've just brought something with, and this is also in your notes there. You can go and read that article where they said that a tremor that they had in Durban, this year in Durban, was a sign of a new African continent forming. And they could trace this part of Africa within the next few million years is going to break away, and there you've seen Africa is actually going to lose its horn, and here we're going to have a new continent that is going to be formed. Interesting, scary, but interesting. And that is what the future holds in for us. Okay, as I've said in my introduction, I'm just going to touch on the concepts with regard to folding. Very, very, very important. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Folding and faulting. All right. The first one that I would like to share with you is folding. All right. Have a look at these mountain here. What's going on here? Why does this mountain look like that? Now, what you are actually seeing here is a folded mountain. Now, what happened there? Let's have a look at what really happened there. You must know that before, this is what happened, right? That the layers, have a look at these here, you see the layers are completely bent there, right? And what happened is the layers were first horizontally. And what happened was that we had forces pushing together these rock layers together. And eventually, that is what happened. Okay? And if you can remember the photo that I've shown you, that is exactly what it looked like. And it's important that you must know that if you look at this folding, the downwards bend is known as the syncline, and the upward bend is known as the anticline. Right? So these are just diagrams of it. But if we should add a few real photographs, then immediately you can see, right? What on top we've got a diagram of it, and here we've got, look at that, anticline, right? Anticline, upward bend. Can you see the upward bend there? Here we've got anticline on that side also, and the downward bend like that. Look at that in these rocks. That is called the syncline. So when it comes to this grade 10, you must remember what these things are all about. Okay, what you had your horizontal layers, right? You had forces pushing in different compressional forces actually, and what happened is that has happened. Okay, so that would be our syncline and our anticline formed by means of folding. Okay, I'm going to conclude with faulting. Now I know faulting can become difficult, so let's have a look at this that we've got here. The first one I would like to show this photo, share this photo with you. Now have a look at this photo. And when we have a look at this, we've got interesting things in this photo. Just have a look at it. This was part of this, and it was a straight line. Have you got that? That one there. That one there. Let's see. In other words, this is what it looked like. Right? See what's happened here? Something happened here. Look at this one here. All right? That line, that rock was part. So this was the initial straight layer of rocks that we had there. And this was the initial straight layer of rocks that we had here. And this is what faulting is all about. Right? So immediately the question is, but what is faulting? What is faulting and how does faulting work? Now, let's have a look at this. What's very, very important that you must know with regard to faulting is the following. That here you've got forces from the opposite directions, okay, moving towards each other. Now, when this happens, then the rocks crack. And after, if you look at that dotted line that I've drawn in here, there you can see actually that is the fault. That's the place where the rocks have cracked. Okay, so this is my fault line that I've got here. So what is actually happening here is that because of the strong pressure applied to rock, the rocks break around the faults and they move either upwards or downwards. And this is what is called faulting. Okay, now there are only 3 types of faults that you must be able to identify. 3 types of faults that you must be able, actually they can even ask you to draw the faults because it's very, very simple to really draw them. So let's have a look at the 3 types of faults, and I'm going to conclude with this. The first type of fault that you have is what is called a normal fault. A normal fault. Now, what is a normal fault? Now, again, a grade 10s. As in plate tectonics, your most important thing is here, look at the arrows, okay? Remember when we talked about the plate boundaries, I said, you must look at the arrows. Then you'll be able to actually work out everything for yourself. And here's exactly the same thing happened. So let's have a look at this. The first one is your normal fault. Now, with your normal fault, tension, in other words, can you see the forces are moving in opposite directions. And what's going to happen? You've got your fault here that has been cracked here, and see what was happened. This one block actually fell a bit lower than the one on the right hand side. It moved a bit downwards, and that is called a normal fault. The other one, the next one, is called the reverse fault. Now, with your reverse fault, look at the arrows. Remember, I always said, look at the arrows. Right? What's happening here? Can you see that now the forces are in the opposite direction? You've got compression forces, forces moving towards each other. And if you've got forces moving towards each other and you get a crack here, then what's going to happen? The one block is going to move upwards or over the other one. Right. So that is called a reverse fault. That is very important that you must be in a position to identify this one. Now, this one looks familiar, isn't it? All right. Your strike slip fault. Now, think about when we had to look at plate tectonics. We also had this type of plate movement. If you can remember, we called it a conservative or transform movement. But here this is a fault, strike slip fault. What happens here? This means this one, they are moving laterally past each other. Now, have a look at your diagram and you'll see how easy it is to remember, to have a look here. Can you see this one? This one has lowered here. Look where the road is there. And look at the road here. And exactly the same this one. Because of compression, it was pushed upwards. See where this road is high. That one is low there. And look at this one. Very interesting. Lateral. Remember, this road was first one road. And then it moved, because of the lateral forces, they moved past each other. And now you've got that type of fault. Grade 10s, expect a question in the exams with regard to your different faults. Expect a question in the exams with regard to everything that we've done now. Expect a question, the paragraph type question that we've done this afternoon of the evidences of your continental, of your plate tectonics. Okay, right, grade 10s, that's it for today. I hope that you find your geomorphology a bit more interesting now. Remember, geomorphology is my favorite part, and I hope that as you move through to grade 12, that will be one of your favorite parts of geography as well. Bye-bye.